You smiled, but it wasn't real. You stayed quiet, but the blood burned under the skin. You said it's fine when it wasn't. And every time, a piece of you went silent. Not because you're weak, but because you were taught that tolerance is strength, that patience is noble, that endurance means maturity. But here's the truth. Some things should never be swallowed. Not the insult, not the tone, not the subtle dismissal that told you don't matter. The Stoics didn't endure disrespect. They endured what was beyond control, never what they had the right to walk away from. And maybe that's what you forgot. You're allowed to leave. You're allowed to stop smiling. You're allowed to say, this doesn't get to stay near me. This isn't about being cold. It's about not allowing what slowly break to sit at your table one more day. Let's begin there. You let it slide. You told yourself, they probably didn't mean it. It's just how they are. It's not that big. But here's the thing. It's always small until it starts to rot you from inside. That one joke, that one look, that one line, wrapped in sugar but sharpened underneath. And you took it. Again and again, like swallowing glass and smiling through the blood. But the Stoics didn't teach endless tolerance. They taught discernment, choosing what deserves your response and what deserves your silence from a distance, because not everything they do is yours to absorb. Not everything they say should echo inside you. There is a boundary, a sacred wall that protects your worth. And if you don't guard it, no one will. Let this be the shift. You're not cold for saying, this stops here. You're just aware of what you're no longer willing to carry. They laugh, so you're expected to laugh too. Even if it cuts, even if it stings, even if every word feels like it was aimed right at your center. And when you freeze, they smile. Don't take it so seriously. Can't you take a joke? But here's the thing. It wasn't a joke. It was a mask. A way to say what they didn't have the courage to admit as an insult. The Stoics didn't confuse silence with agreement. They didn't let humor be a shield for harm. Because respect isn't about the tone, it's about the intent. And some words smile while they wound. So next time they laugh and look to you to validate the hit, don't play along. Don't laugh. Just to keep the room comfortable. Let them feel the pause. Let them hear the silence. Let them realize you're not the kind of person who lets disrespect wear a smile. Let this be your first perimeter. If it mocks your dignity, it doesn't stay. They ask, they check, they prod, they hover. And when you flinch, they say, it's because I care. I'm just trying to help. But it doesn't feel like help. It feels like being watched, being weighed, being caged in someone else's fears. Because not all concern is pure. Some is masked control. A subtle leash disguised as love. The Stoics drew lines between guidance and grip. They walked with others, never on them. So if their care feels heavy, feels conditional, feels like something you must earn to keep their peace, step back. You're not here to shrink for their comfort, to perform calm so they won't spiral. Their anxiety isn't your prison. Let this be your second perimeter. True care doesn't need to control. I'm just trying to help. That's what they say. Right after they cut, right after they point, right after they wrap their judgment in sugar and throw it hard. They call it feedback. But it's not given to build, it's given to shrink. Because real feedback doesn't sting like that, doesn't leave you second-guessing your worth, doesn't echo when you're alone. The Stoics welcomed truth, but not from every mouth. Only from those who stood in respect, not above you. So ask yourself, did it clarify or confuse? Did it support or suppress? If it felt like a spotlight and not a hand, you're allowed to leave it untouched. You don't owe everyone access to your process. Let this be your third perimeter, if it's not rooted in respect. It's not yours to take in. They didn't say it directly, but you felt it. The tone, the pause, the glance that lingered just a second too long. You laughed, played it off, told yourself, it's probably nothing. But it wasn't. It was sharp, it was aimed, it landed. Because some people don't strike with words, they strike with silence, with sarcasm, with gestures so subtle you almost blame yourself for feeling them. The Stoics noticed the unseen, felt what wasn't said, and walked away from spaces where respect didn't echo. You don't need proof. You don't need a quote. You don't need to explain why it felt wrong. If your body flinched, that's enough. You're not paranoid, you're perceptive. Let this be your fourth perimeter. Disrespect doesn't need a name to be recognized. They're sweet when it's convenient, cold when it's not. 1 minute, you're everything. The next, you're barely there. You wait for the shift, the smile, the storm, and slowly, your own emotions start to obey theirs, because they've trained you to read their face before feeling your own, to walk on eggshells to keep the peace they never protect. But the Stoics knew, true power is inner regulation, not external manipulation. Love doesn't flip, care doesn't control, respect doesn't turn on and off based on their convenience. So stop dancing to moods that aren't yours. Stop guessing who you'll get today. You are not their emotional remote. Let this be your fifth perimeter. If they pull your strings, cut them. They stop talking. No call, no message, no explanation, just air, thick with meaning, and you feel it, the shift, the cold. It's not peace, it's punishment, because some people use silence, not to reflect, but to control, to make you chase, to make you question, to make you bleed in your own head over what went wrong. And they say, I just needed space, but it's not space, it's distance, meant to make you come crawling. The Stoics valued quiet, but never as a cage, never as a leash. True stillness is chosen, not forced. So if their silence feels like a lesson, a trap, a way to bend your spine, don't fill the gap, don't beg. Let them sit in the quiet they created. Let this be your sixth perimeter. When silence becomes control, let it echo without you inside. We're close. It's just how we talk. You know I don't mean it, but you felt it. That hand, that joke, that word that only came because they knew you wouldn't push back. And they call it love. But love doesn't dismiss. Love doesn't grab. Love doesn't speak in ways that diminish what you hold sacred. The Stoics honored proximity, but never as permission to cross lines. Just because someone has access doesn't mean they earned it. Just because they know you doesn't mean they own you. You're allowed to say, not like that, not here, not even you. And if that makes them distant, let them be. Better a clear boundary than a blurred one that slowly breaks you. Let this be your seventh perimeter. Love without respect is just access with no consent. I'm just being real. I tell it like it is, I don't sugarcoat. But truth without respect is just a blade. And some people take pride in cutting, in being loud, in not holding back. But what they call honesty is really a lack of discipline. The Stoics didn't speak to wound, they spoke to clarify, to build, to restore order, not to dominate. So when someone talks like their voice matters more, like volume equals truth, like tone is a weapon, step out. You're not fragile, you're just no longer available for conversations that cost you peace. Let this be your eighth perimeter. If their words leave scars, it's not real talk. It's damage disguised as depth. They don't respond, they forget, they cancel, they disappear until it suits them. And when they return, it's been crazy, so much going on. You know how life is. But here's the truth. Busy isn't the same as unavailable. And priority never gets lost in the schedule. If they wanted to show up, they would. Even briefly, even quietly, even with a word that says, you matter. The Stoics taught presence, not perfection. They didn't demand time, but they recognized patterns. And when someone's absence becomes consistent, when their effort becomes convenience, when their care needs a calendar reminder, it's not time that's lacking, it's value. So stop chasing space in a life that never had room for you. Let this be your ninth perimeter. You don't have to compete for a place you were never given. Where were you? Who were you with? Why didn't you reply? And when you breathe, they say, it's because I love you. I just worry. You mean so much. But love doesn't need to own to feel safe. The Stoics didn't control. They respected space, trusted truth, held close without tightening the grip. Because real love doesn't track, doesn't invade, doesn't make you feel like you're doing something wrong just for existing freely. If they need to cage you to feel secure, that's not love, that's fear with a ring on it. And you don't owe your freedom to anyone's insecurity. So step back, breathe deeper. Remember, the kind of love that lasts leaves room to move. Let this be your 10th perimeter. If it feels like a leash, it was never love. You don't need to raise your voice, you don't need to explain, you don't need to fight, you just need to know the line and not let them cross it. The Stoics didn't teach distance, they taught precision. Who gets access, how much, and for how long before peace is protected again. Because not everyone deserves your silence. Not everyone deserves your closeness. Not everyone deserves to stay just because they've been there. Some came too close too often and forgot you're a whole world with walls and a gate and a choice. So now, redraw it, quietly, firmly, without guilt, not to push them out, but to finally stand where your dignity isn't in danger. Let this be the end of endurance and the start of standards. They don't have to understand it, they just don't get to break it.